Hey, what's up guys? It's Jonathan here. So cars, they're one of the biggest necessities that we need for our day-to-day lives to be as productive as possible. But at the same time, they probably cause the most financial stress on our budgets out of any other expense that we have. And a lot of times when you're in the market to buy a car, it's very hard to tell if you can actually afford it or not. So in this video, we're going to discuss some budgeting rules on how you should budget for a new car. And I'll also give you an example if you can afford a certain car or not. So if you stay around till the end of the video, I'll give you that example. And I'll also tell you something that a lot of these financial gurus on YouTube commonly miss when it comes to buying a car. So without any further ado, let's get right into the video. But before we do, please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It greatly helps out the channel and helps push this video to as many people as possible. So if you could just go below and hit the like button, that would be greatly appreciated. So let's get right into the video. So the most common rule when it comes to budgeting for a vehicle is that you should follow the 20% rule. And the 20% rule pretty much states that all of your costs of ownership for a vehicle should not exceed 20% of your monthly gross income. And this includes things like insurance, gas, registration, and maintenance. And the common mistake most people make is that they only consider the amount of their car payment instead of the entire cost of ownership. And when you don't consider the entire cost of ownership, that could be a very costly mistake, especially that most dealerships won't tell you about this. Most classes in high school won't tell you about this. Some of these fees can be hidden and it can be very costly in the long run. And to give you an example of this, I, for a time, lived in Connecticut. And in Connecticut, they actually charge you personal property taxes on your vehicle. And this is something that I never knew of because in the state that I grew up in, California, this isn't the case. So I bought a new car, and when I got my new car, about 6 months later, I got a tax bill for almost $1,200. And at the time I was in school, so I didn't have a whole lot of money, but luckily I had an emergency fund that I was able to pull from to pay that tax bill. So all these little things you have to do research on, and you really want to make sure that you factor these in when you are buying a car. So as promised, I'm going to hop on my iPad. I'm going to show you guys an example of a calculation of buying a brand new car to see if you can afford it or not. So I'll see you there. So for this example, I decided to go with using the 2021 Honda Accord as an example. I think this is a really good car to use as an example because it's a bigger sedan. So this will be what most likely what people are gravitated to, especially as their first car purchase. Typically, usually the more mid-sized sedans like the Civic are too small for some people who are a bit taller or a bit bigger. So I decided to go with the Honda Accord XL, which is basically their base model. And the MSRP on a car like that is about $25,000. So I did some homework and I realized that the average car down payment is about 11.7%. Now, usually it's recommended that you put down about 20, but a lot of people tend to go with less, and most lenders tend to be fine with this. 11.7% of $25,000 is about $3,000. So in this example, we're going to use $3,000 as the car down payment example. So that means that the loan amount that we need to take out is about $22,000. So average loan term for a car is about 60 months or 5 years. And that's pretty typical. Some people will go for a higher 72 months to make the car a little bit more affordable. But 60 months is usually the average. And then the average auto loan rate is about 4.7%. So this means that your monthly payment is about $400 a month. So if you get $413 and you make that 20% of your gross income, that means you need to earn about $2,100 a month or about $25,000 a year to be able to afford this car. Which is like, okay, good. If I make $25,000, I'm going to go buy myself a brand new Honda Accord. We forgot a couple of things. The entire cost of ownership. And like I said, the entire cost of ownership is not only just the car payment, but it's also the maintenance, the gas, insurance, and other costs as well. So the monthly costs I broke them down like this. $413 for the car payment, then another $120 for insurance, This is usually about the average for a sedan, especially a larger sedan. I also consider the fact too that most likely you get gap insurance as well. And what gap insurance is that let's say you bought a car for $24,000 and let's say your loan still had let's say you still had $22,000 of principal to pay off. But you get into an accident and the insurance only values your car at $18,000. Pretty much what gap insurance will do is that will cover the difference between what you owe and what the car is worth. So just in case if you were to get into an accident, you won't have to come out of pocket for the difference. I factored the cost of that into the insurance cost as well, and I got about $120. Then gas, I figured that the average person drives about 12,000 miles a year. If you're getting 30 miles a gallon, at gas prices around like $3 to $4 a gallon, you'd probably be about $130 per month. Then car maintenance, this is something that a lot of people tend to forget to budget, but it's very important that you do budget. I decided to go a really conservative number of about $110 a month, which I think is plenty for you to just do basic maintenance to your car, like oil change, tire rotations, replacing your tires, replacing fluids, and those basic service needs. And then there's also registration as well. This is going to vary a lot depending on where you live. But I know in California it's about $60 a month. I think that would come out to be around $400 or $500 a year. And obviously, every year your car gets older, your registration cost comes down a little bit. So I just factored in the worst case scenario, which is probably the first year. So when you add all of this up together, your actual cost of ownership is $833. And then if we do that math again, if we do the backwards math to figure out the monthly income that you need to afford a car like this, we come up with about $4,200 a month, which times 12 for the annual income means you need to be making somewhere around $50,000 a year to be able to afford this car. This is usually where most people on YouTube would just stop and they'll say, okay, I need to make $50,000 to afford this car. But wait, there's more. One thing that a lot of people forget about is the fact that cars, especially new cars, depreciate very quickly. And the Honda Accord, even though it is a Honda, is not immune to this effect either. The Honda Accord actually over a 5-year span will usually depreciate about 42%. And again, that was something that I did through research. Typically, if you go on Google and you type in Honda Civic or Honda Accord depreciation curve, you can usually find that kind of data for any car that you're thinking about buying. So the value of the car at purchase, again, was about $25,000. That's the MSRP value that's on Honda's website. And then the value of the car after 5 years would be about $14,500. And like I said before, that means that the car lost about 42% of its value over the first 5 years. So if you take the number of how much value the car lost over 5 years and you divide that per 60 months, that means that every month you're losing $175. So that means that for every time you pay $413 for a monthly payment, the bank, you're literally getting $175 and you're lighting it on fire. That money is just gone from depreciation. And if you factor that into your costs as well, you would actually have a cost of ownership of about $1,000 instead of the $800 that we saw before. So again, if we now go and do that backwards math again, that means that you need to be making about $5,000 a month to be able to afford this car following the 20% rule. And every year you're going to need to make about $60,000 to be able to comfortably afford this car. And I think that this is one of the biggest dangers that come with buying a new car is the depreciation behind it. And that depreciation that may not seem very significant, but when you consider the fact that you could have taken that money and invested it in stocks or in real estate or in yourself or your career or developing yourself, it is a very high price to pay just to be driving, just for a car that you're probably not going to spend that much time in anyways. So some of the takeaways from this video is that anytime you buy a new car, just make sure that you know how much you're actually paying for this and the opportunity costs you are sacrificing when you buy a new car. Personally, for me, what I've noticed is that if you just buy a car that's 2 or 3 years older, usually the technology isn't extremely different, and you're getting basically the same car, and you're not having to deal with this crazy depreciation that you usually have to deal with when you buy a car brand new. And I know how attractive the new car smell is and the feeling of driving a new car, but trust me, it's not worth all this money. And if you could get away with driving a car that's a bit cheaper, it will make all the difference for your wealth in the long run. So I'd like to thank you guys for watching. If you enjoy my perspectives and the way I explain things, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell so you get notified anytime I post a new video. Also, while you're down there, hit the like button as well. It greatly helps out the channel and helps push this video out to as many people as possible. And if you have any opinions about this or you have any questions, I encourage you to leave them in the comment section down below. I try to respond to as many questions as possible. And also check me out on all my social medias. I try to post there every day. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.